Winter can be a challenging time for nature, but in our own gardens we can all do something to help wildlife. Thank you for becoming members of Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust. By signing up, you've already taken the first step into helping wildlife and nature across Sheffield and Rotherham. But in this short documentary, I'm going to tell you some ideas that you can do to help wildlife in your garden this winter. Now, the single very best thing we can all do in our gardens to benefit wildlife is to build a pond. Now, this is the pond in the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust headquarters garden. Now, this has been here a number of years, but winter is really the best time to construct or to create a pond. Now, it doesn't have to be a big pond like this. You can make your pond for whatever space you have available. It can be a bucket, or it can be a bowl, or an old sink, or anything that you have space for. And in the booklet that's with your membership pack, there are full instructions on how to build different kinds of pond. And winter really is the time to do this, because if you build your pond now or create your pond now, by the spring it'll be ready for wildlife to move into. You'll be surprised how quickly things like frogs, toads, newts will find it, and also flying insects such as water boatmen and pond skaters will see it from above and come down and occupy it. Now, the important thing is that your pond needs to be filled with rainwater. So if you have water in a water butt, use that. Or, of course, once you've dug your pond or created your pond, you could just leave it and let it fill naturally over the wet winter months. So this is the first thing that we can all do to help wildlife in our garden, and I think the single best thing we can all do if we have space. Feeding birds during the winter is not only a great thing to watch, but is also beneficial to all the birds that are struggling to find food during the harsh winter months. This feeding station here contains sunflower hearts, which seems to be the most favoured kind of food for most species of garden birds. Now, if like me you have a problem with squirrels taking all the food before the birds can get to it, you can invest in one of these squirrel guards which fits over the top of your bird feeder. But there is a cheaper way of deterring squirrels, using this old pop bottle, which has just got holes drilled in either end and then attached to the pole. As the squirrels always climb up the pole, same as rats as well, they'll do that. If you put this guard on there, it stops them climbing up the pole because they can't get over the slippy plastic. And it's a good use of recycling as well. Now, during the winter, many invertebrates, many insects need somewhere to go dormant and spend the winter months. So having these kind of insect hotels is really beneficial. Now, during the summer months, things like solitary bees will build their little nests in here, but ladybirds, earwigs and other beneficial insects will spend the winter in these in diapause, which is a kind of hibernation. So these are a great idea, and you can make these, and of course you don't have to spend a lot of money on them either. You could just put together pine cones in a box and leave that in your garden, or you can just not repair that old wall that has numerous holes in it. Something else you can do is pile up lots of old stones or bricks that you've got from a building project that you might have completed in your garden. Just leave this pile of stones or bricks because they're fantastic for things to overwinter in and protect themselves from the frosts. Things like frogs, toads and newts will all overwinter in piles of stones. Also, things like queen bumblebees will also spend the winter in holes in walls or in piles of stones. And as well as stones, piles of sticks and compost heaps are also great places for wildlife to spend the winter. A hedgehog could naturally burrow underneath a compost heap and spend the winter there where it's nice and warm. And also insects, frogs, toads and other wildlife can also burrow into here and spend the winter protected from the hard frosts. Now, all of us in our gardens tend to like things to be neat and tidy, but leaving a few little bits of vegetation to die back is really good for wildlife, especially insects, because insects could actually overwinter on these seed heads here on this Michaelmas daisy, or some of them could live in hollow stems of plants. So leaving some of them uncut to die back naturally will really benefit wildlife, particularly invertebrates. If you live alongside a woodland or you've got trees in your garden, don't worry about all those fallen leaves. They're fantastic for wildlife. Collect them all together, pile them all up, and again, they're great shelter for invertebrates. Blackbirds will toss them around looking for the insects that are inside them, and you can mulch them all down and make them into leaf mould, which is a fantastic compost to put on your garden next year. Another great benefit from collecting all the leaves together like this and putting them in your garden is that they will provide a fantastic cover for earthworms. Now, earthworms are active all through the winter, but they just go further down into the ground when the ground is frozen. So putting a pile of mulch of leaves on top of your soil will help earthworms because it will stop the ground from freezing and give them a better chance of survival through the winter. And included in your special membership pack is a booklet all about other things you can do to help worms and a guide to the most commonly found species in your gardens. Now, during the winter, hedgehogs need somewhere safe to hibernate. And we've already mentioned a few of the places that they'll naturally overwinter in your garden. But if you really want to go whole hog, you can actually build a hedgehog house. Now, this one here has been specially built. It's a wooden construction, and you'll see it's got a tunnel entrance at the front which stops larger predators from getting in. But it doesn't have to be this elaborate. You can just get an old wooden box, just put a hole in the front of it and put it deeply under a hedge out of the way and cover it over with leaves, or even an old plastic box with a lid. Again, cut a hole in the front, cover it with soil and leaves and put it under a hedge. And that could be a fantastic, warm, safe place for a hedgehog to spend the winter. And if you're really lucky, in the spring, a female hedgehog may even choose your hedgehog home for her brood. So thank you again for becoming members of Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust. Your support is really appreciated. We hope you've enjoyed looking at some of the ways that we can all help wildlife in our gardens this winter. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you do any of the things that's mentioned in this short sequence, then please let us know. Send in your photographs, upload them onto our Facebook or Twitter page. We'd love to hear from you. And during the period of your membership, if you have any questions about any wildlife issues, we're always happy to help. So get in touch. Thank you again.